Welcome to the Rum Revival. My name's Arminder, and today we're drinking two brand new rums from Hampden Estate in Jamaica. Now, both of these are new additions to Hampden's core lineup. We've got the Pagos and the HLCF Classic, which sort of kind of sounds like a golf tournament if you ask me. The plan is to break down both rums, talk about how they're made, and then taste and compare them. Before we get into the rums, let's quickly talk about Hampden Estate. Now, the estate has been producing rums since 1753. Now, for most of its history, their rum was mostly sold unaged and in bulk to brokers and merchants in Europe. It's changed hands a couple of times, but when the latest owners purchased the estate in 2009, they started aging and releasing rums to consumers under the Hampden Estate label. Now, what stayed true for most of its history is the very traditional fermentation techniques used to create some very flavorful and pungent rums. Let's actually start off with the HLCF Classic here. If you're not familiar, the HLCF in the title stands for Hampden Light Continental Flavored, and it's the name of the mark or base unaged distillate that Hampden uses for that rum. Now, Hampden has a total of 8 different distillates that they produce, and it's by proofing down, aging, and or blending those distillates together that they make all of their commercial releases. So given that, HLCF Classic is made entirely from the HLCF mark. To make the distillate, molasses, water, cane juice vinegar, and the leftover remains of previous distillations are mixed together and go through an open air wild fermentation. Then muck, which is this like thick, dark ooze that's full of acids and bacteria, that's added into the mix to kickstart a secondary bacterial fermentation. Now, all of this creates lots of esters and other flavor compounds that provide all sorts of intense, funky flavors and aromas. After fermentation, the rum is then distilled on a double retort pot still and comes out of that still at 85% ABV. Now, here's the thing. Everything that I just covered and the rum that comes out of the still, if you keep it unaged and proof it down to 63% ABV, well, you've got yourself Rum Fire. Yeah. Now, if you're not familiar, this is a big, bold, funky, tropical fruit bomb of a high ester rum. It's phenomenal in cocktails, and I absolutely love it. Now, the HLCF Classic starts off the same as Rum Fire as it comes off the still. However, unlike Rum Fire, the Classic is aged 4 years in ex-bourbon casks. Those casks are blended together, and then the rum is proofed down to 60% ABV, and that's HLCF Classic. Think of this as Rum Fire's older, cooler brother that smokes cigarettes and drives fast cars. Now let's get into the Pagos. Now, the term Pago is used in Spain to refer to an area or cluster of vineyards. Now, unlike the HLCF Classic, the Pagos does not have a mark listed on the label or on Hampden's website. However, the label does specify that it has an ester count of 467.9 grams per hectoliter of pure alcohol. Now, don't worry exactly what that means, but based on that and what I've heard from folks in the know, this would put the rum in HLCF territory as well. That being said, it's not official, so take that with a grain of salt. Now, whether this is or is not HLCF, the base rum is definitely one of Hampden's medium or higher ester rums, so everything that I've said about how HLCF is made applies here as well. After distillation, instead of being aged in ex-bourbon casks like the HLCF Classic, the Pagos is aged in 500-liter ex-Oloroso sherry casks from Bodegas Fundador, a Spanish brandy and sherry maker. Now, regarding the aging, it doesn't have an age statement listed on the label or anywhere else for that matter, which is like a good sign that it's a fairly young rum. Maybe 2 or 3 years if I was giving it a guess. So fairly young, but aged entirely in sherry casks, no ex-bourbon here. Now, after the rum has been aged in those sherry casks, those casks are all blended together and then proofed down to a very drinkable 52% ABV. So with all of that technical information out of the way for both of these rums, let's give them a try. Let's start off with the HLCF Classic. You can definitely smell this rum from here. So one of the things that I smell right away is this note of like strawberry banana that I consider to be a classic Hampden aroma. But here it's a touch more of like a candied strawberry and banana. Now, after some time, that note kind of fades a bit and I'm primarily getting briny pineapple, like maybe like a charred briny pineapple. There's also like a pop of lemon to it as well as some like nail polish remover. Now, that's not like a strong note, but it is noticeable. That is strong and powerful. The first thing that you notice that your palate picks up is like this strong hit of like acidic tartness. It's kind of all that I'm processing right now. Now, with each subsequent sip, I'm still getting a note of what I'm calling like acidic vomit, but once your palate gets acclimated to it, you notice that it's followed by what I'm calling a diesel-drenched pineapple. maybe like a dirty sour pineapple note. And look, I know how I'm describing this might not seem like the most appealing thing or that there's something wrong with this rum, but trust me, this is doing exactly what it's supposed to be doing, and there are a lot of folks who absolutely love those flavors. Now it takes some time, but those notes of acidic vomit and diesel-drenched pineapple step back a bit, and you start noticing that they're rounded out by a touch of brown sugar, some chocolate, and some vanilla coming from that barrel aging. It takes a while to get there, but it's absolutely there. Whew, a little bit heartburn. Now on the finish, I get a hint of smoke and some brine and maybe even a bit of menthol. There's like a touch of savory quality to it. All right, let's give the Pagos a try. Kind of thing I notice is that the Pagos is a touch darker than the HLCF Classic. So I smell so much fruit on this. I get like a strong note of rum raisin, some fruit roll-up actually, and grenadine, like lots of stewed down dark fruits. And there's even some notes of like banana and pineapple with a touch of cinnamon. Having said that, after you let this open up, I start picking up notes of nail polish remover underneath all those fruit notes. Now in isolation, I don't really care for notes of acetone in my rum, but here it ends up being a perfect accent and balance to all those rich fruit notes. All right, let's give this a taste. Oh yeah. Dude, oh, that is so my jam. And like literally jam, because there is so much fruitiness up front. I'm getting notes of raisins and figs and berries, more of that like dark fruit that I was getting on the nose, like really stewed down and concentrated dark fruits. Super jammy. Now, I am getting like a little bit of like cinnamon syrup as well on the palate. And there's even like a bit of grape drink vibes or like grape Dimetapp. Remember Dimetapp? Is that still a thing? I don't know. Now here's the thing. None of this ends up getting cloying or sweet. Before that can happen, that acidic tartness kind of kicks in to provide this really lovely balance to the entire experience. As those sweeter fruit notes are building up on your palate, right underneath that is this wave of that tart acidity that basically washes away all that sweetness. There are still elements of the pineapple that I was getting in the HLCF Classic and that I get in Rum Fire and just HLCF in general. That is here for sure. But like the higher, brighter notes are the fruits, is that cinnamon syrup. Kind of underneath it though, you can see the pineapple there as well. So now that I've had both of these rums, what do I think? Well, I think I've spent way too much time with Rum Fire because the HLCF Classic very much feels like Rum Fire, both on the nose and the palate, but like maybe rounded out and fleshed out. Like the sharp edges of Rum Fire are brought in a bit, and it's a touch sweeter, which makes sense given the aging. Now, as much as I love Rum Fire as a mixer, it's not a rum that I really sip. The high ABV and the high esters and the high acidity and funk, it's not a thing I really particularly crave drinking neat. Now I know plenty of other folk that love that kind of thing, but that's just not what I look for in a sipper. Now given the aging on the Classic, I'm much more likely to sip that neat than Rum Fire, which kind of makes sense. That being said, the acidity and funk of even this aged rum might be challenging for some people, especially if you're relatively new to rum. So really, I think this is a rum for folks who absolutely love their Jamaican rums and their funk. I don't think it's something you necessarily buy as a beginner, or maybe you try before you buy. How's that? But if this is your kind of thing, then I think this will easily become one of your go-tos. Now the Pagos, on the other hand, is much more approachable, and that of course has to do with the lower proof and what the sherry casks are bringing to the rum. Like, I'm pretty impressed with this. I love how well the sherry integrates with the big, bold, fruity distillate. And I think this is a fantastic example of sherry not dominating a spirit, but instead working in harmony with the distillate that is still allowed to shine. Now, if I'm only going with one of the two, I'm gonna go with the Pagos. To me, it's kind of playing in my wheelhouse. I really like the lower proof, and I like that the kind of intensity of the funk and the esters are a little bit more kind of balanced here than in there. So that's kind of what I prefer sipping. So I would go with that. But again, both are really good rums. Well, there you go. These are the two newest releases from Hampden Estate. I'm excited that we've finally gotten these here in the States. Now, if you liked this video and dig what I'm doing in general, then consider supporting me on Patreon. It's where I'm putting out some exclusive behind the scenes videos, some first impressions videos, and probably all sorts of weird and off the cuff rum related content. I actually have a video on Patreon where I try a number of Rum Fire cocktails that I absolutely love, and then I make versions of them with the HLCF Classic, and then I compare the two. If that sounds kind of interesting, check it out on Patreon. All right, so I'd like to know if you've had these and what do you think, or do you have a favorite Hampden rum? Could be either one of these two or any of the ones that they've ever released. Let me know in the comments below. Thanks so much for watching. Catch you next time. Cheers.